Ready? Good morning, everyone. My name is Marta Dina Arguello. I'm the Executive Director of Physicians for Social Responsibility Los Angeles. I just want to breathe for a moment because it has been a long and winding road to get here. I think we started this work in 2013. So I want to thank all of you for being here and all of the people who helped us get here. We stand at a very important moment in this fight to protect our communities from the dangers of oil drilling. And today we are one step closer to safeguarding our communities. With the signing of this bill, Governor Newsom has taken us one step closer to reaching the environmental health and justice we have long fought for and worked for. This moment has been fueled by years of persistent and principled organizing by many of the community organizations that are represented here, communities that have lived with the harmful effects of oil drilling and pollution, where we live, work, play, and learn. For over a decade, our collective efforts have mobilized thousands to stop the fight for oil drilling. During this journey, the oil industry has fought back with its wealth, power, and dirty tactics and profits made off the backs of our communities. They have tried to block our most fundamental right to breathe clean air. They have fought us at City Hall. They have fought us at county boards. They have fought us at the State House. We have fought them at the ballot box and at the courts. We have faced this industry with its deep pockets, and we have prevailed. Justice has prevailed, and today, we remain steadfast in our mission and dedication to protect our communities from both the immediate and long-term health impacts of living in the shadow and the fumes of oil drilling. I want to call out a few, and I'm not going to remember everyone, but the people who got us here. The people power, powered by Communities for a Better Environment, Holman United Methodist Church, our organization, Physicians for Social Responsibility Los Angeles, Redeemer Community Partnership, Esperanza Community Housing, the Center for Race, Poverty, and the Environment, the California Environmental Justice Alliance, the Campaign for a Safe and Healthy California, Asian Pacific Environmental Network, and so many more, Center for Biological Diversity, and many more who have worked tirelessly to make sure that the oil industry is held accountable, that cities have the power to decide what goes in our communities, and that polluters are held accountable for the harm that they have created. So we are here to thank Governor Newsom for standing with us, helping us achieve the justice that we have fought so hard, and we will continue to work for a better future for our communities that's safer, where we can breathe clean air, and we are no longer living with this that stands behind me. That is not part of a healthy community. So we envision a healthy Los Angeles powered by clean energy, where communities' right to breathe is protected and held sacred. And again, I have so many stories of how long it took us and the steadfast the commitment of many legislators and now the governor with the signing of this bill. I want to thank you. And a critical part of this fight has been the voice of health professionals, from the hundreds of physicians that we have mobilized, but also people like our next speaker, Dr. Ilan Shapiro, who will talk to you next. Thank you. Oh. Yes. My name is Marta Dina Arguello, Martha Dina Arguello. I am the Executive Director of Physicians for Social Responsibility Los Angeles. Thank you.
It's really an honor and a special moment for me to be here. In this same field, my kids actually play. I come here as a pediatrician and also as a father. I can tell you for sure my frustration when I see my patients come back again and again with asthma, with that chronic runny nose, with that cough, with that problems of breathing and having that quality of life reduced. I really can do so much. Maybe a medication, maybe an inhaler. Given the correct things for each of my patients, but the real magic, the real impact happens when they walk out of our clinics and our hospitals. When they come to a field, when they go to school, and most importantly, they're social drivers of health, including the air that we breathe. I'm here because I do believe that this can actually start moving forward the conversation that we need to promise our future generations and us that we can actually do something different. We can actually bring hope and maybe the opportunity for our own lungs and body to really breathe air. At the moment that we are out there and we see our kids, they're missing school. Parents are actually not going to work because someone needs to take care of them. I serve more than 120,000 children between Allen County and Orange County. This is the reality. Our communities are living in places where the environment is leaving a scar for the rest of their lives. Then, moving to something happier, this is the moment with this type of activities, and we have in our hands the opportunity to make a difference. Where me as a doctor, I don't need to prescribe medications, where actually the environment and the cities that we live in are conducive to a healthier life. Familia, ahorita voy a hacerlo en español, entonces no se me espanten. Soy el doctor Ilan Shapiro, soy médico y pediatra y quiero compartirles que justamente en este campo mis hijos juegan fútbol. He estado aquí como parte de la comunidad y como pediatra y muy importante como padre. He visto los efectos que están pasando. Muchas veces cuando vienen conmigo a la clínica, yo puedo recetar para ese problema de la respiración, pues algún inhalador, algún medicamento, pero vienen y vuelven a regresar otra vez y otra vez a mi clínica. Lo importante está aquí que yo no puedo hacer milagros. Y realmente la magia está cuando abren las puertas de nuestras clínicas y de nuestros hospitales y salen aquí, a nuestra comunidad, donde el aire puede tener problemas para estar contaminados, donde realmente está la oportunidad de cambiar esto. Porque si no cambiamos lo que respiramos, nuestros hijos van a continuar teniendo esos problemas respiratorios, esas infecciones y esos problemas que estamos viendo. Hoy, con esta legislatura, podemos realmente empezar a ver esos cambios que necesitamos para prometerle a nuestros hijos y a nosotros un camino para tener un ambiente que sea muy positivo, que nos prometa un mejor futuro y sobre todo, mucha más salud. For the record, Ilan Shapiro, I-L-A-N, last name Shapiro, S-H-A-P-I-R-O, and the Chief Health Correspondent and Medical Affairs Officer for Altamed. And thank you so much. And it's an honor to actually invite Mayor James Bott to the podium.
This is James T. Butts, Mayor and City of Inglewood. I got to tell you, this is a special day for me. I grew up in this area, 59th Street Elementary, Horseman Junior High, Crenshaw High. All the kids from Westchester, Crenshaw, Fairfax, all we ever knew were these oil wells. But let me tell you something, when I was a kid, you know what we were told these were? We were told they were dinosaurs. We believe they had dinosaurs over here near Fairfax. And that's what the story. Now think about what's happened over the decades in the state. Whenever you had something that was harmful, detrimental, or you had to displace people, it happened to communities in black and brown, people in black and brown communities. Elysian Park, the 110 freeway, displacement, build oil derricks. That's what they did here. And we accepted it. And so I have to tell you that for me, it's a very emotional thing. And I really want to thank Governor Newsom and the state legislature for doing something no one ever considered doing. We just thought this was part of our topography, to recapture nature, to get rid of low production oil fields and give the opportunity for kids to know something other than an oil field. The governor's been very, very good to Inglewood. We've really had an ascension over the past few years. He's given us grants so that we can contemplate an overhead monorail and mass transit for the city of Inglewood. And now he is giving back to our community, not just the city of Inglewood, but for this county, the opportunity to know a different future. So I want to thank the governor, I want to thank the legislature, and I want to introduce a very, very great person, great supervisor for the 2nd District, Supervisor Holly Mitchell.
Good morning and welcome to my hood. Welcome to the 2nd Supervisorial District. And as a 3rd-generation Native Angelino, the mother of a son an asthmatic son who tried to play soccer on this field. Before I ran for office, governor, my office, Crystal Stairs, was right down the hill. You know, this is my area. I loved walking up today and seeing so many long-term homies and fellow advocates, and we've been telling stories about me first being elected to the legislature in 2010 and having probably what was my first Zoom meeting with members of my home church, Holman United Methodist, to talk about what a ban on fracking would look like, me showing people a vote card that was dismal at best, to come full circle today. To see this work really transition to administrations, where we started with your previous administration and where we're ending with you. We are ending in a better place than we started, quite frankly. And to acknowledge, as a sitting member of the South Coast Air Quality Management District, as someone who's been in elected office since 2010 and always represented the largest urban oil field in the country, what I have learned about that is proximity matters. And I remember having to educate my colleagues in the legislature, particularly those from the Central Valley, who didn't understand proximity to active oil wells. You can see it right here behind us as we stand on a very active soccer field. Come here on the weekends and you can't turn around for bumping into somebody. When you look, we drew circles. We did aerial shots, Governor, and drew circles, you know, quarter mile, half mile around the largest urban oil field in the country so I could show my colleagues in the legislature that proximity matters. You and I have been in unincorporated areas in the southern section of LA County where you were standing at a children's after-school program with an oil well. You remember that? So proximity is critical in the environmental justice movement. That's what we've been trying to communicate. People are living, going to school, working, having recreation experiences in proximity that has caused multi-generational harm. And those days are coming to an end, and that makes me very proud. It's our responsibility as the home of the largest urban oil field in the nation to lead by example in creating an equitable path for phasing out oil drilling. I was very proud, in addition to the work I did in the state legislature, to pass a motion in 2021 with many of these folks right here standing alongside me at LA County to ban existing oil drilling, and the board adopted the ordinance in 2023. Now, we know the oil and gas industry will not go away quietly, and they're exploiting court decisions to challenge ordinances here in LA County and other jurisdictions. But we are upholding and reaffirming the authority of the county and other local governments in passing ordinances that protect residents from the effects of oil and gas pollution. We are going to stand firm in that. The bills, they're right here, that the governor will be signing today are keeping the industry accountable and ensuring that we prioritize public health, safety, and welfare of residents living near oil wells, going to school near oil wells, going to church near oil wells, existing in close proximity. And it's time that the individuals that carry the heaviest burdens of environmental injustices, at no fault of their own, are at the decision-making table and their needs are prioritized. I'm proud of my former colleagues in the state legislature to do the heavy lift, if you will, to bring these bills to the point where they are today, where they can become law with the stroke of a pen. I just want to acknowledge my own Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, who is only not here because he is on his honeymoon. But what AB 2716 will do for this community, as a member of the Baldwin Hills Conservancy, again, it makes me very proud that here at the nation's largest urban oil field, a change will soon come. It gives me great pride to introduce one of the authors of the bill that will be signed today, representing Santa Barbara, Assemblymember Hart.
My name is Assemblymember Greg Hart, and I represent Santa Barbara County. And over 100 years ago, the very first offshore oil wells in the world were drilled off the Summerlin coast. The drillers in those wells abandoned the wells after they finished producing oil and stuffed wood and rags into the oil wells that they had drilled and walked away from that situation. You can imagine the environmental disaster that has caused. 100 years later, those wells are still leaking, and taxpayers are responsible for cleaning that up. We're here today to hold the oil companies accountable for those actions and to make sure that things like that don't continue. We're here in the largest urban oil field in the country, and we're signing legislation today, a package of bills that will address the conditions here. Assemblymember Bryan has been a courageous leader in following in Supervisor Mitchell's steps to try and do the right thing and protect public health and safety in this community. Assemblymember Don Addis has legislation that will restore democracy in counties and cities around the state of California who want to hold oil companies accountable and choose their own path for their community about whether there should be oil development in their communities. My legislation holds oil companies accountable for the idle oil wells that exist throughout the state of California. There are more than 40,000 idle oil wells that are leaking into our groundwater and polluting our air, and the oil companies are not taking responsibility and accountability for those wells. My legislation will require them to do that. And I am very proud of the leadership that Governor Newsom has brought to this issue, pulling these bills together in a package to demonstrate that we will hold the oil companies accountable for their pollution and for their public health impacts. It is only right. It is not the taxpayers' responsibility to take care of this pollution that has been caused by the oil industry. It is the oil industry itself that has to fix these wrongs. So I am very proud to introduce our courageous leader of the state of California, Governor Gavin Newsom.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to brag on the Assembly member in a moment, and for good reason, because he's been instrumental in advancing a cause even larger than this, and that's the cause of a second special session that is going to be, tomorrow we'll have our first big committee vote. But first, I just want to thank all of you for your advocacy, your faith, and devotion to this cause. Thank you for your commitment to getting these bills to my desk. Thank you for the privilege and opportunity to be here, to be able to sign these bills, and thank you for the opportunity of being able to share a few additional thoughts and build on the comments of those that are behind me. I've had an interesting 48 hours, kind of a special 48 hours. I was in East Orosi yesterday in the Central Valley, a community less than 950 or so, a community that I don't think has had many governors visit. And I had the privilege of yesterday signing a bill to address another crisis in our state, and that's access to safe, affordable drinking water. At the same time, address issues related to access to sewage systems. And I had the privilege of being in a backyard of a gentleman whose mom passed away, whose mom was a fierce advocate for addressing some of those concerns, but didn't see the day that she would see that advocacy come to light. And I'm here mindful of that and mindful of this journey that you've all been on. And what a privilege it is to be here with you so that you can see the progress of what you have promoted and to see that promise take shape. That said, I'm mindful as well that program passing is not problem solving, meaning signing a bill doesn't necessarily solve a problem. And that is the hard work ahead of us that will be determinative in terms of addressing, as the mayor said, whether or not these dinosaurs continue to be part of the narrative for generations to come. And so we look forward to working in partnership with all of you to advance the promise of these 3 bills and the promise that we're promoting in this second special session in California. But look, we're here mindful of what we're up against. I had the privilege of being here not that many months ago with many of you, including some well-known Californians, Jane Fonda, former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, as we were pushing back against a referendum against our efforts to push back the buffer zone to 3,200 feet for oil wells in the state of California. We were successful in getting big oil to pull that referendum off the ballot, but we also were mindful that they would continue in their tactics to delay and persuade. Those tactics are a big part of why I'm here as well today. It was Chevron that sued Monterey County and a voter initiative as it relates to their efforts to limit new oil drilling and address the issue of fracking. It led to a Supreme Court decision where Chevron was actually successful. That led to a second court decision of sorts against L.A. As it relates to your efforts at the local level to take the state floor as it relates to health and safety and take it to the next level. I'm not here to begrudge the decisions from a legal perspective, obviously disappointing outcome, but I'm very pleased that we took those decisions to heart, literally in this case, Assemblyman Hart, and shifted through a legislative process to actually address the law so there'll be no subsequent court decisions along these lines. And we're once again empowering local communities to go further than the state itself as it relates to your own health and safety and buffer zones. On the issue of idle wells, as the Assembly member was saying, anywhere, and he said roughly 40,000, which is about right. We have on the low end 37,000, the high end over 40,000 idle wells throughout the state of California. About 5,000 of them are now completely orphaned, which means there's no associated liability except on our backs, meaning the taxpayers are now on the hook for those 5,000 wells. We put up $100 million a year or so ago of taxpayer money to cap those wells. We were able to draw down through the good work of the Biden-Harris administration an additional $60 million. So we have $160 million in a bucket to begin to address and plug those orphaned wells. But it is absolutely right, and I appreciate the Assembly member's point, it is absolutely right to hold the oil companies themselves accountable to addressing the issues around idle wells before they become orphaned and they have no liability and we have no recourse. And so that's another central part of the bill package we're signing here today. And finally, I just want to thank Isaac, the Assembly member, just sent me a picture proving that he's on his honeymoon. I assure you, I'll just leave that. Well, I'll just say that, period, and move on. But I can assure you, he's disappointed. Otherwise, he would be here because he's very proud of the work he's done. I think I see Jamie Court here and others that have worked hard to get his bill to my desk, and that's to address and talk about being proximate this community directly, address specifically what you see behind me and throughout this area, and to hold folks accountable on these low production wells and to create a framework of accountability as it relates to assessing fees and fines that will go back not to the general fund in the state of California, but back to the community for parks and open space and for healing, as Mayor Butts said, the environment and the community at the same time. So those are the 3 bills. It's been a long journey we've been on. Over the course of many, many years, decades, as has been the case for so many of the advocates here today. But tremendous progress is being made, and that allows me to conclude my remarks by highlighting how proud I am of Assemblymember Hart. He is the sponsor of the bill that is the subject matter of the special session. He's been a fierce advocate. Again, he is not interested in the cause of social justice, economic justice, and racial justice. He's committed to that cause. And we are here at this pivotal moment with the special session tomorrow in the position we are, taking on big oil and have a real chance of winning because of his leadership. So I'm honored, as Assembly member, you took the time to get up here. Thank you again for all your remarkable work, and thank you for getting this important bill to my desk as well. With that, here's the desk. And let me quickly sign these and ask all of you, you guys stand around as we sign these bills. You can move over. Martha, get over here. And then we'll answer any questions. And we'll get a bunch of folks on that side. A balanced photo.
After telling you my story. Right?
Check this off for a second. Do like a team photo right here. Let's get it done. Sir?
Thank you very much.
Martha? Mayor and Holly? Let's share. Well done. See how easy that was?
Thank you.
What are we doing tomorrow?
What do we know? We got this special.
No drilling! Where we're living! No drilling! Where we're living! No drilling! Where we're living!
That's cute.
Well done. Well done. So we have our Corps of press secretaries available for any questions that you may have.
Hi, Governor Alex Michelson, Fox 11 News. Good to see you. As you know, affordability is the biggest issue in California. We already have the highest gas prices. We have the highest gas taxes. There's concerns about the cost of electric vehicles, the infrastructure for charging them. What do you say to Californians who may be concerned seeing this, that it's going to make their lives more expensive?
Well, it's just the opposite. They're ripping you off. Big Oil's been ripping you off and then lying to you. They've been giving talking points over and over and over again. They've been flooding the zone with lobbyists and with ads misleading you. Let me give you a specific proof point. Right now, Californians are paying $1.51 more than the national average, $1.51. That delta has actually grown in the last few weeks. There's been no new fees, no new policies that have been enacted. They're just simply taking advantage, as they do every single year around September. It's one of the specific issues we're trying to address in this special session. They've been gouging you. They've been taking advantage of you. 2 years ago, it was $2.61 more than the national average. At the same time, crude oil prices are dropping. And by the way, right now, crude oil prices are dropping below $70 a barrel as prices increase in California. They are taking advantage of you. They're lying to you. And what they do is they manipulate the facts, and they try to play both sides as it relates to opportunities like this to highlight their misdeeds. They immediately say, well, because of the legislation side, that's why you're burdened with these higher prices in California. That is simply untrue. They are the polluted heart of this climate crisis. They've been lying and deceiving us for decades and decades and decades. And it's finally time to hold Big Oil accountable. And that's why this time we are not falling prey to those lies and to the manipulation. And that's why we are in the middle of a second special session in the legislature, calling them out with facts and data. And I'm confident we're going to get things done.
And on the issue of affordability, a little bit different twist on that. This is your first time in the LA media market in a while. I know you've been talking a lot about Norwalk and Huntington Beach. Now that you're here, as they push back on some of what you're trying to do on homelessness, what's your message to the leaders of those cities?
Do your job. Be accountable. Look in the mirror. Society becomes how we behave. We are our behaviors. You want to look at the housing crisis? Just look at what Huntington Beach has been advancing. Look at the homeless crisis. Look what Norwalk's trying to achieve. They're trying to scapegoat. They're trying to point fingers. They're not doing their job, period, full stop. And by the way, that's not just my word. Don't take my word for it. That's what the courts have been saying in Huntington Beach over and over and over and over and over again. They keep losing. Taxpayers wasting millions of dollars. It's virtue signaling. pure politics, theater. And the AG, I applaud our Attorney General, I applaud the legislature. We have a housing and now homeless accountability unit, and we mean business. At the end of the day, state vision on homelessness and housing are realized at the local level. Localism is ultimately determinative. It's a big part of the spirit of this bill signing here today, to empower local communities. But within that empowerment comes accountability and transparency, and that's what we're bringing to this debate.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, Blanca Bay Garrett with Politico. So on the special session, 2 bills went into print last night that will also be considered. One to expedite CARB's approval of a higher ethanol gas blend, and another that would allow California to put in place its winter fuel blend that's more polluting sooner. I'm wondering if you have thoughts on those, specifically the latter, and if you what you think those could do on gas prices.
I'm not going to screw anything up at the 2-yard line. 12 hours before tomorrow's hearing, there are ongoing discussions, very public discussions, very pointed discussions with members now of the Assembly, but also mindful that whatever the Assembly puts forth, the Senate has to codify and support. So those conversations are happening quite literally in real time. When I got out of my car, those conversations were occurring earlier this morning and continue as I speak.
Thanks. And then I have another one that I'm just asking on behalf of Alejandro Lazo from Cal Matters, who's not here today. So on the subject of you talked about the oil industry pulling its referendum to repeal neighborhood drilling, but your own administration sought to delay the measure, and now there's a bill on your desk delaying monitoring for air leaks into the air and water by 3.5 years. So how do those actions square with the claim that you're protecting people from oil wells, and also what do you think about that bill?
Well, I haven't had a chance to review. I've gone through 991 bills, minus 3 today, and you know, I don't have anything to comment in that respect. But you know, respectfully, in terms of the frame of the question, there's no state in the country that's been more fierce in its advocacy in terms of health and public safety as it relates to taking on big oil and supporting environmental justice causes related to big oil than this state. So I'm very proud of that, and proud of the fact that they saw the light on the referendum. They were going to lose. It wasn't a noble effort. It was a pragmatic one. And they were going to lose because we talked about people power. The people of California have had enough. And so I'm grateful for that. But we'll take a look at the bill on its merits, but I haven't had a chance to review it.
Thanks.
Governor Conan Nolan, NBC Los Angeles, nice to see you. This is a tangential issue. Certainly, this is part of your effort to wean the state off of fossil fuels. There's been an effort with CO2 emissions part of the equation. There's a record amount of investment in public transportation in Southern California. Today we had the 5th murder on Metro this year. There have been well over 16 violent attacks on the Los Angeles Metropolitan Transportation Authority. The surveys indicate people take the bus not because they want to save CO2, because they don't have a car. How do you get to a change in society and in transportation habits when people are afraid to take a system that we spend billions on and is right now a rolling crime wave? I know Supervisor Mitchell will want to weigh in on this as well.
Yeah. Why don't I defer? I mean, as a former county supervisor, I will defer to Supervisor Holly Mitchell and Mr. Mayor, as a former mayor as well. My God.
Exactly.
Long resume.
Okay. Supervisor Mitchell and I are both on the Metro Board, and I spent 37 years in law enforcement. And here's what I can tell you directly. The reality is, for the number of miles traveled, millions of miles traveled on the system, crime on the Metro system compared to society is de minimis. However, every crime that occurs on a bus or a train becomes front page news, and we accept that. The issue is the behavior in society, it's public safety deployment of resources, and it's punishment. And so until we get to a point where we have changed as a society that we do not have these types of behaviors, we're going to experience this. But however, we don't accept that in Metro. We are exploring building our own policing agency within the transit district again, and we have deployed more money, about $700 million a year, for the deployment of the LAPD, the Long Beach, and the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department to keep our riders safe. We give our hearts go out to the families that were impacted by this incident of yesterday, but we will continue tirelessly to make the system safer.
Thank you very much. I'd echo everything the mayor said. And, you know, it's not unique to Metro. We have looked at systems all over the country. And just as, you know, crimes against society, as poverty goes up, as substance use abuse goes up, as houselessness goes up, we find people who are using our mobility system for other reasons. And so we're working very hard to be smart and strategic in our investments, improving many of our train stations to make sure that they are safe and inviting. And as the mayor said, you know, on our bus system, our ridership is up pre-pandemic levels. And so we are continuing to work very hard to invest and encourage people to go Metro. When you compare it to crime in society, it is de minimis, as the mayor said. And when we look at the advantages, we are working hard to make it affordable. We have our system where K through 14 ride free, and superintendents across the region have told us school attendance has increased. It may be unimaginable to some of us that someone couldn't go to school because they couldn't afford a $1.75 one-way ride, but it's true. And so we're continuing to make it safe. And again, we also clear as Metro board members that we're employers. And so we're working very hard that our bus operators are safe and protected, and we're taking specific measures to make sure they're safe. And our hearts go out to the family members who were impacted by yesterday's hijacking and tragedy, but we are all over it.
Okay, and before I turn the hot seat back over to the mayor, to the governor. He used to be a mayor, used to be the mayor, but the governor. We have a pilot program for millimeter wave technology that will scan people for knives and firearms before they get on buses or trains. We're also changing the strength and integrity of the barriers that will allow you to get on a platform without a ticket. We're also going to enforce fare evasion, because what we find is over 90% of the crimes that are reported that occur on Metro are people that don't pay a fare. So we're doing this real time. We're building for the future, but we have a pilot program that'll be in effect within a couple months to deter and prevent weapons from coming onto the system. It will also involve facial recognition technology as well.
A follow-up to that, Mayor. So is the board considering barriering off all drivers on Metro buses, or
that's already happening?
Right, or on high crime routes, establishing armed marshals?
Well, no, hold on 1 second. We already have armed police officers policing the system. We have
buses.
For the buses. We do not have armed people on buses as yet, but what we want to do is get to the point where we prevent people from entering a bus that has a knife or a firearm. We think that just people knowing that technology exists on our buses will have a dramatic impact on people bringing those type of weapons into the system. And
I was just going to say, we also, a couple other things. The ambassador program that we've onboarded. It's in major transit systems all over the country. We saw it in Paris during the Olympics and the Paralympics. And we're finding the role our ambassadors are playing in terms of making people feel safe, just to know that while they're not armed, that there are another set of eyes and ears with a phone that can get immediate access to help, whatever the help is required, either uniform presence or to administer Narcan. And so we are looking at a variety of options, because different people define public safety differently. And so we're looking at a variety of options to make sure that the entire ridership of Metro has a sense of safety. We have something called the PSAC Committee, comprised of riders of Metro who are informing and developing policies based on what they experience as everyday riders of Metro and what they would need to feel safe. The PSAC policies are coming into fruition as well. But yes, the plexiglass barriers for bus operators
Already in progress.
are in progress and will be on every bus very soon.
All right. All right. Governor, come back to this microphone.
Thank you.
Governor Leo Starworth with ABC. Just had a quick question in regards to the dinosaurs we see over behind us here. For our viewers, so they are clear and they understand what you just signed, can you, in a nutshell, explain how what you just signed will protect them from these dinosaurs?
So first, maybe we can talk about your bill specifically. Let me defer to you, which will directly impact, and then Isaac Bryan's bill, which even have a more approximate impact on this.
Yes, AB 1866 that I authored will require oil companies that have idle oil wells throughout the state of California to, on a yearly basis, properly plug and abandon those oil wells to protect public health and safety, to protect the environment from underground pollution of groundwater and air quality. And the bill really puts stringent requirements on the oil industry to make sure that the idle oil wells that exist today and more oil wells that will exist in the future are not the responsibility of taxpayers, but are on the accountability of the oil companies themselves financially.
And Martha, I just, out of respect for her advocacy, love to talk a little bit about how this one of the bills I signed will directly impact LA and the court decision that was just recently.
So AB 3233, which provides for local control and the ability of cities and counties to enact more stringent protections, means that the victory that Supervisor Mitchell talked about when the county declared oil and nonconforming land use, and when the city of Los Angeles declared oil and nonconforming land use, can now move forward, given that there was a court decision that ruled around, that basically preempted cities and counties from taking action to protect their communities. So AB 3233 means that we can go forward. It gives clear direction to cities and municipalities that they can act to protect communities. And because nothing happens without us, we will be there watchdogging, making sure that we enact the 3,200 foot, actually, that oil is now a non-conforming land use, and we begin the process of amortization and figuring out what is next for these sites.
Talk about Isaac?
I wanted to be deferential. And there are additional components as it relates to new wells going forward that will be precluded as it relates to existing wells like those you see behind me. If they're deemed low production wells, there's a new criteria of regulation and authority under what we refer to as CalGEM, which is a state agency, to fine these non-compliant companies. $10,000+ that would go into a fund for restoration, particularly here in the Baldwin Conservancy area specifically, and that's a component part of the Isaac Bryan bill as well. So these are just three additional tools in the toolkit. The work we're doing as it relates to the special session is much broader. It goes to the issues of refinery, supply, demand, scarcity, price spikes, price gouging in the state, which we've experienced year in and year out. All of this, again, is about accountability. It's about transparency. It is not about kicking people out of their cars. It's not about increasing prices. It's about taking, it's about holding accountable those that are taking advantage of people at the pump by increasing prices arbitrarily based upon past practices.
Hi, Governor. Joel Pollack from Breitbart News. Question about the economic impact of some of these laws. We haven't heard yet today about the impact on jobs. Is there concern about whether people who are working in the industry locally might be impacted, or are there new opportunities that might arise?
Well, I appreciate the question, and I appreciate the latter part of the question because I think you nailed it. 160 million reasons why I give proof point and lay claim to the fact there are specific job opportunities that are created in addressing these orphaned wells and abandoned wells by plugging them. It's exact same workforce that's working on these wells that have the opportunity for decades now to plug these abandoned wells, and we're putting resources up as part of this just transition framework. I will say in the macro, new report just came out, 544,000 clean energy jobs in the state of California. It's almost 7 times more. I'll repeat this It's important, almost 7 times more than fossil fuel jobs. So you want to talk about jobs, you want to talk about opportunities. We're about the fresh air of progress versus the stale air of normalcy. We're about the future, not the past. And I think California's leadership in the low-carbon green growth area demonstrably proves that the old binary is no longer in play, that we can grow our economy and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And one final proof point, because the California Resources Board also put this information to light this week. Since 2020, we've reduced our greenhouse gas emissions 20%, and the GDP of this state, to your economic frame, has grown 78%. 78% as we have reduced our greenhouse gas emissions because of the policies enacted going back to the time in the spirit of conservatism of Ronald Reagan himself, who established the Air Resources Board in 1967, codified through the Clean Air Act with another Republican by the name of Richard Nixon in 1970. I just need to remind people that that baton was passed from a non-ideological agenda. We seemingly have lost sight of that today.
Just a quick follow-up on the overall picture. So if there are over 500,000 clean energy jobs, does the fossil fuel industry have a future in California?
Well, they clean up their act. They're held to a higher level of accountability. They stop taking advantage of taxpayers and people. If they abide by health and safety rules, if they protect the communities that they directly impact, if they're more responsible for their pollution. I'm a taxpayer. I'm pretty offended by the hundreds of billions of dollars that we spend around the globe to clean up their mess and the impacts of their mess. You see it expressed with 3 large wildfires and that are more intense. There's not a firefighter, no matter your ideology, that says, they say it over and over and over again, I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. The intensity of these fires, lifestyles, places, traditions, places quite literally they're eliminated from the map. Grizzly Flats, Greenville, California. Saw what happened in Paradise. So we take these things very seriously. Oil companies have been knowingly lying to us for decades and decades, have been denying the technology and delaying the technology that would allow us to transition. And that's why we're engaged in a lawsuit in that space as well. So that's my long-winded answer. But we see a brighter, cleaner, greener future, and we see alternative energy sources as an economic imperative and an extraordinary opportunity to dominate in the next big global economic wave.
Hi, my question is on Exxon. So California has mandated recycling for several years, and yet the state only recycles less than 40% of its waste. Why are we blaming Exxon for plastic waste pollution when the state has so many issues on this topic?
I'd refer to you to the Attorney General's lawsuit that he filed, I think, 48 hours ago. You'll see the detailed assertions that he's making in that case. I back him up. I support it, I think, based on sound evidence that would specifically answer your questions about Exxon in particular as it relates to plastics and microplastics and misleading the public about the work they're doing in this space. As you know, just a few days ago, I signed a bill as it relates to plastic bags and a ban addressing loopholes. I've been very aggressive in this space going back to my time as mayor, Mr. Mayor, where we were the first city to take on the plastics industry and advance recycling efforts. On the issue of recycling more broadly, California has an enormous amount of work to do. And over the last few legislative sessions, we've been reforming what we refer to as Cal Recycle. And we're looking to radically change our approach to recycling in the state of California. This is an issue that is not unique to California, all across this country and around the globe, but we take our responsibility in this space seriously as well.
Governor, my name is Raj. I'm covering from Indian newspapers in India as well as here. I'm a Californian. First of all, congratulations for signing today's bill. I have one quick question. The barrel, 15 barrel to 400 barrels, that will be the first phase, if I'm not mistaken, for closing down. How fast Angelino can see that results? And second, by the way, you are being regarded a good climate person and a governor in third world, and I just wanted to compliment on you on that.
Good. I may need a job in a few years, so I'm going to send you my resume. But no, well, look, I appreciate being governor of a state that gets it and gets it done as it relates to changing the way we consume and produce energy. I'm proud of that, and I'm proud that we lead by example, and I'm proud of the fact we hold ourselves to a higher level of accountability in terms of leadership in this space. As it relates to your very substantive part of your question, as it relates to how soon will we see fruits of this, that depends upon the implementation dates set forth in these pieces of legislation. It depends how quickly CalGEM, our state agency and regulatory agency, move to assess the conditions in fields like this and assess through a protocol and process that assesses fines and fees, and how quickly oil companies themselves react to these bills and whether or not they litigate, as often is the case, on bills that are being passed. So again, that's why I began my comments with some humility, saying what I said. Program passing itself is not problem solving. It's the hard work ahead of us to hold folks accountable, and that requires all of us. Community advocacy requires local government, regional agencies, state agencies, and federal agencies as well. But it's a new energy in the state. We're being more aggressive than we've ever been, and we're really looking to drive accountability at all levels. Thank you. With that, once again, it's good to be back here, and thank you all for making this happen. Take care, everybody. Thank you, guys.